welcome to Series 2 of my podcast Innervation, where we get to hear stories and experiences of incredible women in science and technology. Not only will you get insights into some fascinating innovations, but you may also even relate to their stories, especially if you're a little unconventional or non-conforming. As with all science and technology, what these women do for a living has a real impact on all of our lives, and we don't often realise it. But here on Innervation, I'm also giving these women a platform for them to be heard and for us to be inspired and uplifted by what they've learned along their life's journeys, both personally and professionally. This week, I talked to Jessica Gagan, who is studying Aerospace Engineering. Oh, and she also happens to be a fashion model.
My name is Jess and I am a student of Aerospace Engineering at the University of Liverpool, and I made a transition from fashion modelling into engineering, and I'm really passionate about showing other girls why they should go into engineering too.
So Jess, it's so amazing to meet you. I actually found out about you through my sister. She sent me a message going, oh my God, check this girl out. She's awesome. And you totally are awesome. And we'll get into all your amazing dimensions. But it was very much about the modelling meets engineering. Which way round was it?
Modelling, well, I'd like to say modelling was first because I've been doing that since I even did my GCSEs. But I've been very much like academic for literally for my whole life. I was always about getting grades in school, so I don't know what you can class as comes first because I started modelling before I did my exams, but obviously the backup was there. But it's been a long time for both, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to meet someone who has experienced both worlds, because I certainly haven't met anyone that's doing hardcore engineering. I mean, aerospace engineering, whew, that's not the easiest. But then also modeling as well. How has it been, let's just go general for a second. How has it been combining those two very opposite things?
It genuinely, it depends on how busy I am with modeling. So I can't say no to an opportunity basically unless I've got an exam that day. So I will always try my best to kind of obviously move things around because I'm a mature student. I still need to earn money. I've got things to pay for. So yeah, I always try to move the engineering around as and when I can. It was harder when I was in first year because I had labs and obviously I had to do them there and then on campus. Compared to this year. This year's been a lot easier to kind of balance things, and sometimes modelling gets in the way. Engineering I can always kind of catch up on, especially the theory side of things. It's only if I've got a practical, but when I've been doing my third year project, you kind of plan that yourself. So it's been surprisingly okay this year, but don't want to run before I can walk because I've still got the master's year coming up.
Where exactly are you? Are you still doing an undergrad? And how old are you and things like that?
I'm on an integrated master's. So originally I did a foundation year to get in, and then I was on the bachelor's, and then I did quite well in my exams last year. So I had the option to go into the integrated master's, and it just made sense while I was there, just get it all done.
So the last Instagram post I saw of you, you were in some plane and it looked awesome. You were with a bunch of guys, looked very comfortable doing what you did. What were you doing?
So as part of second year, actually, there is a flight test in the lab. And we didn't get to do it my year because obviously COVID and stuff like that. So they gave us the option to do it this year with the new second years. And only a handful of people ended up signing up. And out of my whole year, I mean, there's not many girls anyway, but I was the only girl there, so I was like representing all of us on the course that day. And basically they just take you up in the plane, and then they'll like do different maneuvers, like they might like pitch and roll the aircraft, and they've got screens in front of you so that you can see how many knots that the plane's flying at, and like different forces that the aircraft's feeling. And yeah, so you can then like log all of that data and then use that data as part of a lab. But because the lab's meant to be run in second year and they replaced it for us, I just went for the ride. And then they demonstrated different things that the second years won't have learned about yet. So I remember when I was doing flight dynamics and control last semester, we did all the maths behind Fugoid mode. So when he was demonstrating that, originally I was like, oh, this is great, I know all about this. And then that completely went out the window as soon as I started feeling sick. I was like, I don't need to know about maths right now. I need to just look out the window and make sure I'm okay.
It's so amazing when theory meets real life experience. Like for me doing engineering, that's when the light bulb switched on, because suddenly all these numbers and formulas became just experiences.
Yeah. It's applied physics at the end of the day, isn't it? And what's weird is that when I was in school, even though I got an A in my physics GCSE, it was my least favourite science. And I think it was because a lot of the stuff I was doing was theoretical and I couldn't see it in front of me. And I think that's obviously, it's something that engineers thrive in. They like having things, building things, making things, and applying their knowledge to solve a problem, essentially. And I've always like been very into like problem solving, and my dad always used to say, Jess, you'd be a really good engineer. And I always used to think, why would I want to do that? No, I don't want to like drill holes in things. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the industry. So yeah, it's applied physics essentially, isn't it? I love it now.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I've really noticed recently, is because I'm writing a book about engineers and we all love maths and physics. I mean, to be fair, not everyone is really strong in maths and physics, and that's okay for engineering because it takes a village. But at the end of the day, physics is very different from engineering, because engineering is kind of, it is a lot more applied, and it's a lot more sort of get your hands dirty, experiment, maybe make a few mistakes, and that's okay. But yeah, it is kind of mathsy.
Yeah.
How has it been? Like, how have you even come across sort of the discrimination of wait, do I want to backtrack? To put things into context, how many girls are there on your course?
I think there is 9 out of about 100. So there's only ever about 10%. And in first year, I remember that there was 11 and they were like, wow, we've got more than 10%. And then I think 3 dropped out, but then we got another girl transfer across. So I was like, I'm not 100% sure the exact number, but it's about 9. Yeah.
And why do you reckon they dropped out?
I know a reason why one girl dropped out, because I used to be like good friends with her. I mean, I'm still in touch with her. But basically, as you will know, engineering is a very intense degree. And in first year, in my experience anyway, we had like lectures 9 to 5 every day, sometimes 9 to 6, and we just have our lunch break really. So it was very full on. And then obviously you have like different homeworks, assignments and things around it. And I remember, because we'd never yet done exams and we were kind of new to this subject, I think you definitely are thrown into the deep end, and you do kind of have to step back. So there'd be times when me and this other girl would be trying to work through some kind of assignment and be completely like clueless with it. And I think that used to really panic her, because she'd come fresh out of school and had been used to being top in the class. Now, when I did my A-levels, I had that shock as well, because I was used to being top of the class right the way through school. And then I went to quite an academic college and suddenly everybody's like me. And most people are better, I'm suddenly bottom of the class, and having to almost feel like you're doing catch up when you've attended all the lectures isn't a nice feeling. So I know for a fact that's why she dropped out, because she said, I'm just not enjoying it. I feel like I'm behind. But I stuck with it because I know how great the industry is, and I do enjoy it. And it becomes apparent that sometimes the boys, or a lot of the time, the boys are feeling similar and they just don't communicate that. So I think you feel that pressure as a girl because you do talk a lot more. You kind of worry between you, and actually the whole class are probably worrying. You just need to voice it with them.
Get the guys to admit it.
Yeah, I
know. How do you know the industry is great?
So it's basically the research that I conducted around my degree before I picked it. So even though I've not got a lot of like personal experience because I'm still an undergrad, my dad is in engineering, so he works as a metrologist for Airbus, and he's always been in that industry. And yeah, for years and years, he always used to say, Jess, you'd be a really good engineer. And as I said before, I used to think, why would you think that? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know what it was. And when I did my research, having been in the modelling industry, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely love it, and I'd love to stay in that for as long as possible. I thought, right, I need a backup. And I don't want to kind of be in the position that a lot of graduates are when they come out and they're struggling to get their first grad job role. And when they get their first grad job role, they're in that kind of like lower pay bracket for quite a long time. I thought I need to go into an industry where I can progress, where I'm working with different people from different backgrounds every day, where there's variety. I'm going to have different projects to do. It's not going to be the same office job every day. And you know, I can advance, and my career can, you know, propel, providing I put the work in. And also I want to work for, you know, a big company who are going to look after me, who I'm going to get opportunities, and I want to be internationally employable. So I basically looked at my options, and it looked pretty much like medicine versus engineering, and I picked engineering because it just won for me.
Yeah, I would pick engineering purely because blood and that is like having picked engineering, how has it been for you to juggle modeling, not from a logistic point of view, but more from a sort of mental health point of view, I guess?
So to be honest with you, I think this is going to sound weird. I think the two go hand in hand, because engineering, especially this time of year, it's obviously run up to exam season. Mentally is very intense. Like, I don't think anybody can remember all of it. And modeling gives me that break. So modeling's more physically exhausting than anything. So I do, even though like I'll be like, oh, I've got this job this week when I'm working in Scotland, ideally obviously can do without doing it right now. I'm looking forward to it, because otherwise I just won't have a break. Like, I know me and I need that break. So to be able to do something I love and obviously earn a wage doing it, and then be able to just do a few hours in the evening. Like yesterday I was on the study and like literally all day. I finish at like 11 o'clock at night because it's that time of year, and I'm not condoning that, you know, it's different for different people, but yeah, I think the two go hand in hand. It gives me that break, which is pretty good.
And I can see that you're going to be going from strength to strength with your modelling career. I mean, it's really, really taking off.
Okay.
Taking off. Just realised I punned there.
I didn't.
So how will that be compatible with engineering? Because I mean, let's just say you're doing runway and like all these really super glamorous things. Like, will you want to go back to sort of an office job and, I don't know, gears and whatever?
Honestly, like, I'm loving the mix of both. I'm literally like in my favorite world at the moment. I think what's probably going to happen is after I've got my master's degree, obviously I need to see how this year pans out because the last 2 weeks have been crazy. But I think my plan is, obviously would love to work in TV like yourself, but being more kind of like sensible about it. I'm probably going to be going for, say, like a grad job role. And then for the first, I reckon, like few months, it will probably be quite hard to take a day off to do modelling here and there. But when I know enough in advance about something, I would just book holidays to do it and still kind of juggle both. I don't want to burn the bridge, because I think having as well, I don't know whether this is selfish thinking it, but having a female almost representative in both fields, like, and showing girls like you don't have to be one or the other, and that doesn't have to apply to careers. I think a lot of girls have got stigmas about, you know, the type of person an engineer should be, and because they're not educated about what the industry involves, you know, like obviously me and you know all about it kind of thing. But I mean, if I rewind a few years, I really didn't. And I used to think, oh, I don't want to be like working in overalls all day, you know, and just drilling holes in things and hammering things and, you know, wearing like goggles and having my hair back. And like, you know, I want to be a bit girly as well. And this industry just isn't for me. And that's massive misconception. Like there's so many avenues you go down. So I think it'd be really good if I can still integrate them both. Look at me using engineering words. Integrate them both after my degree finishes. And partly the reason as well that I wanted to do the masters was to have that extra year to kind of still do both.
Right.
Probably isn't the best reason to do that. Probably shouldn't admit to do that, but yeah.
I mean, hey, you get a qualification out of it, so why not?
Yeah.
I feel like you're trailblazing. And I think one of the most important things about trailblazing is to have the confidence and self-belief to do things that no one else has ever done. And I reckon you've got, just from the few minutes we've been chatting, I reckon you've got the strength of character and resilience to be a pioneer and a trailblazer. Have you come across anyone or anything that kind of makes you question your path?
In literally my second week of first year, yes. And I'll never forget this, but we used to do every Friday problem classes where for solids instructors, they'd literally just sit you down and you do like a problem question for like an hour, and then they'd be worth hardly anything percent wise, but they would add up and that would form your 10% coursework of that module. And I remember sitting next to a guy, and I obviously didn't have the background that everybody else had, being fresh from A levels and having, like, I didn't even have a physics A level. So I was completely behind because I'd done a foundation year, but it was at a different university. So it was kind of like my knowledge was not to scratch at all. And I knew it was going to be hard work to begin with. And I'd spent like the past like week and a half teaching myself about equilibrium equations, which now if one of them came up, I would be dancing on the ceiling. But at the time, I'd only just learned it and I was still, you know, a bit kind of like not fantastic at it. And anyway, we had this question and I'd done it a completely different way to this guy. And I was like, and we got different values. And I was like, but how do you know yours is correct? And he was like, because it is. And I was like, but how do you know? And he was like, because I've done it this way. And I was like, well, why have you not done it my way? I said, like, I'm not saying I'm right. I said, I want to know why you use your method over mine, because I need to know this for an exam. And he was like, if you don't know this for an exam, you shouldn't be on this course. And I was like, no, I said, this is the whole point. I am asking you, like, can you help me? I said, because I don't understand why. I said, like, I'm looking at this right now. I said, I'm sorry if I'm coming across stupid. I said, but I'm asking for help kind of thing. And he was like, you know, you definitely shouldn't be on this course. Like, I don't even know why you're here if you can't see why this is working this way. And I remember I got really kind of worked up. So I obviously didn't let him see, but I just left the problem class and I went into the toilets and I got a bit teary because suddenly I was questioning myself like, oh my God, am I geared up for this? And it wasn't anything to do with my gender. It was purely, I was like, oh my gosh, like it wasn't to do with my gender. It was just literally, I was like, am I in too deep? Like I've picked rocket science as a degree. Like why have I done this? And suddenly, like I hadn't had anybody previously kind of not warn me, so to say, but kind of give me any kind of insight as to how intense this degree might be, because neither my mum and dad went to university. And I was just kind of a shot in the dark that I picked aerospace kind of thing. So I got really worked up and I left. And then I thought, I'm not going to let you make me feel like that. And yeah, I just thought, like, just because I don't care if it takes me 10 hours to learn something that takes you 10 minutes, the examiner doesn't know that. Yeah. You know, it doesn't matter. And as I say, it's nothing to do with my gender, how fast or how slow I understand a topic. It's all your personal experiences and what you're good at. And I thought, I am not going to let you make me feel this way. Absolutely no chance. And then, yeah, like I've literally not seen that guy all this year. And I know for a fact I got higher than him last year. So, you know.
Oh my God. I am so glad that you got to that point. I mean, I want to hold on to that for a minute. Like, because, you know, those kinds of comments can really accumulate. Yes. There's this cumulative effect. And the reason why I know that so well is because I think that's what happened with my experiences. It was just comment after comment after comment of people just not wanting me to be there. And, you know, I look back as an older woman now, and I see that actually in the same way that that guy was saying, you know, why are you on this course? It could actually be rephrased as a question. And it's like, you know, I don't want you to be on this course because you're making me feel insecure.
Yeah, I mean, 100% completely agree with you. I don't think I could have phrased it better than you just did, to be honest with you. But completely agree. And I think having the background in modelling prepared me to almost stand up and be like, no, you can do this on your own. You don't need people around you, because modelling can actually be quite an isolating industry, especially how I've gone into it. Like suddenly when I was a teenager, I'm working in different countries and being signed by different agencies, and you're just thrown into the deep end. Like you're just sent to castings in locations like you've never been to before. Like you go on your own, you turn up, there's 200 models there, and you're trying your best to look great for these Italian casting bookers, and you get to the front of the queue and they go, no grazie, and you're just kind of like, I waited all that time. And you used to being on your own and kind of being your own cheerleader, especially, as I say, when you're in a different country and your family aren't there and you're a teenager, it is definitely throwing you in the deep end. So that kind of prepped me, and I'm really grateful that I had the previous experience. And I think that definitely also, if you didn't have that experience, it would come with age. But yeah, I think that's why a lot of girls might like kind of go, oh yeah, this subject isn't for me then, because also they think, even if they like the subject, I don't want to be around people like that. Honestly, I think, I mean, especially in this day and age, I think all the guys on my course are great. They're like little brothers, you know, but it's like anything in life, there's always going to be that one person who doesn't like you or doesn't want you there for whatever reason, whatever they're forming their opinions on, kind of thing. And yeah, so I think it's really important to have somebody to kind of say they've been through that and put their hands up, but most of the time don't really have any problems.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that the more of a public profile you get, the more there's going to be negativity. And it's just the laws of numbers, you know. But it's really interesting to hear your perspective, because I think attitude is everything.
Yeah, I agree.
And the fact that you were like, you had a cry, which I think is so important for like releasing that sort of like, oh, I'm having a self-doubt moment. Yeah. And then to rise above that and then just be like, hold on a minute, I'm not going to go through this because of another individual, is like, I mean, that is just absolutely invaluable for the rest of your career. So I don't know where you got that from. Like, I don't know who did teach you that?
I just thought, I was sat next to the guy and then I went into the loo and I thought, hang on a minute, like maybe if this was, you know, this professor, fair enough, he's got a lot of see, I've just said he. Shouldn't have said that, should I? They have got a lot more experience than me. But I was sat there thinking, this guy is literally in the exact same boat. What makes him the expert? And I thought, I'm not going to be made to feel bad. Like, where is this strong Jess who picked this subject? What kind of example am I setting if I let a 19-year-old boy make me feel bad because I get a question wrong? Like, I've been through so much more in life and I've accomplished so much more. That question's worth next to nothing in my first year, which doesn't count towards my degree anyway. I just thought, come on, Jess, you know, pull your trousers up, you've got this. And I think I think yeah, it's really important, I don't know, to communicate your struggles as well, because a lot of people don't want to do that, but I will always put my hand up and I'm not an expert. I'll always ask for help. I ask the guys for help all the time. I was revising with one of them yesterday over Zoom, and I was like, can you do questions with me, because you explain it slower than the lecturers do and you just make me understand it better. And he's like, yeah, okay, you know, you've got to do what's right for you. And as I said before, if it takes you 10 hours to get something or 10 minutes, the examiner doesn't know that.
And how does it work with because I don't know whether you've experienced this, but I experienced guys kind of pushing me away because they couldn't handle the way I looked and the effect it had on them. And so obviously you being absolutely drop dead gorgeous, how do you deal with guys kind of not really knowing, like being really awkward because they are attracted to you and like 10 hours in a library till midnight, you know, like do you come across that awkwardness and how do you deal with it?
In first year, when obviously everybody's new to class, and also a lot of people didn't realise that I was older than them as well. Like, I'm 5 years older than the guys in class. I did get a few guys ask me out, and sometimes they would ask me out like in front of like 5 people from class, and I'd be like, how do I spin this kind of thing? And I used to just say, like, listen, like, I'm happy to do study sessions, and if you want to grab a coffee, if you see me in the library and you want to chat, like, absolutely, you know, we're classmates. But in terms of being interested in you in more than a friendship way, that's not going to happen. And like, I'm afraid, because, you know, I'm a few years older, and I think there's also, between being 18 and at the time I was like just turned 24 because my birthday's in September. There's a lot of different things by the time you get to that stage in your life that just kind of, for me, didn't make me compatible with anyone, because I'm already paying like for bills and stuff, and living in like my own flat with my own car, and, you know, and just different lifestyles kind of thing. We wouldn't have mixed kind of thing. So I was very aware of that. But yeah, then afterwards, some of these guys would then also almost become a bit like sheepish around me. So I used to literally just approach them and say, hey, listen, like, up until yesterday when you asked me out, we were like good mates. Like, we can still be good mates. Like, I'm not holding anything against you. Like, just because I'm not interested in you in more than a friendship aspect doesn't mean that we can't still work together and be friends. Like, you asked the question, you got an answer. Like, why does anything else have to change? Then it goes back to normal. And I think, obviously it's quite gutsy to like ask somebody out like in public, especially when they've come from a completely different background than you. And obviously I'm flattered, it's lovely for me. But yeah, I'm very wise as well. Like, I see all of the guys in class like little brothers. So yeah, I just try to treat them as if they were a little brother. I don't even have a brother, I've got a sister, but so
is she following in your footsteps?
She isn't, no, weirdly enough. So me and Georgia, that's her name, both went through school, and Georgia's extremely talented in terms of like the arts. Like, her voice is incredible. She can dance, she can act, whereas I was great at maths and things like that. So we kind of excelled in different fields. But then after we did our A-levels, I did STEM A-levels, and she did, I think she actually might have done psychology, but then the other two were like artsy. I know she did drama. Afterwards, she went to university for a year and I didn't, because I started modelling. So it was actually quite weird, because I think everybody would have predicted it the other way. And then she went into the arts and is now a musical theatre performer down in London on like the West End and stuff. So she's like forever like swapping and changing the shows she's in and roles and stuff like that. And it was me, obviously, I went into a completely not academic industry and then thought, why can't I do both? You know, like, what's stopping me? And I originally was going to do an open university degree, but I thought, you know what, I want hands-on experience. I want to be with a team of people which can kind of prep me for the industry, because engineering is a lot of teamwork, isn't it? So yeah, she's gone into musical theatre and I went into modelling and then now engineering.
You all seem to have a gene where you're kind of providing not entertainment, but like that's that side of things.
Yeah.
I interview a lot of women who are in STEM who absolutely positively do not want the limelight.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to meet an engineer who is in the limelight and has a lot to give.
Yeah.
But like, in terms of your future, like, where do you plan ahead, and what would a perfect life path, career path look like for you in the next 5 years?
So I am a massive overthinker. I have thought about options which are 20 years ahead. It is a very bad trait to have, because genuinely life doesn't work like that. But yeah, I can't help it, because there's so many avenues this industry can lead to. I think as well, a lot of people think aerospace engineer, that means you're going to work with planes, when, you know, I could focus on the avionics side of things, and I could like work in communications and develop technology that way. If I wanted to, I could go into software engineering and be a website developer. And because I had these options, I was like, I need to pick a degree that gives me that. And yeah, so in the next 5 years, in an ideal world, it would be after my degree, I would love to work in TV and present documentaries about engineering, which can educate girls about what the industry involves. Because not obviously it's different to modelling, but I'm used to being on camera and in front of people and presenting myself in a certain way. So I feel like having a platform where a lot of girls are already interested in my social media because of the modelling side of things. It was last year or the year before, I just thought, you know what, I can use this platform to show girls how great engineering is, because a lot of girls don't know. And I get girls messaging me like, hey, do you think I would be right for aerospace? Or can you give me some advice? Or what can I expect? And hey, Jess, I think I'm really thinking about engineering after I've seen your posts. Can you give me any ideas? And what should I expect? And I'm flattered that me making like a 10-second reel on Instagram can reach somebody and trigger that idea. So I feel like if I could kind of combine both industries of being in the media and also my degree, I think it would be really beneficial to have someone very much like yourself. Obviously, you've studied it to a higher level than me, but yeah, somebody who has been through it and can almost like advise and almost be that figure to represent. Because if a lot of the people that you see on, say, likes of TV or whatever, if they do have a degree, it probably isn't in engineering. And I think it's really important, especially being female in a class of 10% girls, to show girls who are younger than me what this industry involves. I've got the power to do that. All of us do. We've all got an Instagram. So that's why I thought I can utilize this, because there's a good chance this is going to be my future, because I've obviously picked it. Obviously, you don't know how life plans out. I was like, there's a very high chance this is going to be my future. I want to communicate this with girls. I want to show girls what they can be and show them that they don't have to just fit into a box, and show them that the industry isn't how they probably think it is. Because I think it stems to right the way back down to before you've even properly done school. I always say you get girls' toys and you get boys' toys. And boys' toys tend to be cars, planes, helicopters. So they think about these ideas way before girls do. You know, if girls ever do think of that idea. And I think a lot of girls who go into the industry, very much like myself, have got a father figure who maybe a mother figure, but a figure who is in that industry already. That's why the idea is triggered. If that was the case, I probably wouldn't have thought about it. You know what I mean? So I think it's really important. I'd love in the future to be able, to just, even if it's like it isn't of a professional aspect, like if I continue using my Instagram and YouTube or whatever and show girls a day in the life of an engineer, or this is why I've picked these things, or that's just, I'm so passionate about that. Sorry, that was a very long answer.
and a really important answer as well. I mean, you're what, you said you were 24?
26.
Oh, 26. Okay. Still a wee lass. And so at the age of 26, having gone down a STEM route, you can already offer advice. What would be the key things that you think could equip women, girls to consider a career in engineering?
I think first and foremost, it would be to kind of look into the industry in depth and just actually come to grips with how far it can take you in different places. Like, as we were saying before, just because you've got an engineering degree doesn't mean you specifically have to work in that type of engineering or engineering anywhere. I mean, you're massively employable with an engineering degree because people know that you're analytic, you like numbers, and that's applied to so many industries. So that first and foremost, I think, needs to be communicated. But I think the main thing I would communicate is, expect it to be hard. You're not alien for finding it hard. A lot of the guys probably aren't going to let you know if they're struggling. But then when you come out, I mean, I've gone into exams and come out thinking, oh my God, worst exam of my life. I've never done this bad ever before. But and like literally panicked so much thinking, because I was always so used to coming out of an exam like, yeah, I've done all right in that kind of thing. So to come out and not have a clue what you've done and be worried about whether you even passed, 90% of the time, the rest of the class are feeling that, and you'll end up coming out with like 2-1 or something, and it's just how it goes. But before you've had that experience, it's normal to panic. So I think more than anything, my advice would be to talk to people, make friends with people in older years who can advise you, who've already been through it, because that helped me. I used to ask people for advice, and I remember speaking to a guy saying, oh my God, I'm so worried about solids and structures. And he was like, so is everybody. People aren't going to say, but everybody's in that exam. Everybody opens that paper and goes, so he was like, don't worry about it. And yeah, I think that's the main thing. You need to kind of just in this subject, you cannot expect to be an expert in anything really from the get-go. I mean, as you get through, later in your university life, you might be able to tailor your expertise on something and be great at that module, but it's such, like, there's so much involved in it. To be great at everything's very unrealistic. I don't want to be optimistic by saying that as well. I think it's a very realistic approach. Like, you doing electrical stuff one day, like, and then avionics another day, and then fluid mechanics another day, and they're so different from each other. So yeah.
And not to tie any of those negative sort of feelings to the fact that you're female, or because I think there's also a tendency, if you are struggling, to kind of try and find a reason.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a STEM thing, but like I do that. If I'm feeling bad, I'm like, oh, maybe it's because I'm a woman, maybe it's because I'm older, maybe it's because I've got black hair, maybe it's,
Yeah.
And then you end up taking it really personally instead of just going, hang on, I'm finding this hard because it is just hard.
Yeah. And I also used to feel almost embarrassed. So we had, I know different universities do it differently, but first and second year of aerospace engineering at the University of Liverpool have literally just maths modules. So my flatmate, who is a mechanical engineer, she did it differently. She had to pick certain like modules for maths, like Calc 1, Calc 2, whatever, because she did her degree in the US, her undergrad anyway. Whereas we just got maths. So I really used to struggle because this was higher than further maths A level that we were doing. And I didn't even have the full maths A level. I actually dropped maths after my first year doing it at A levels. So I was well in the deep end, and I really used to panic because you don't realise, I don't think, until you get further on later in first year and into early second year, how important this like basic knowledge of, I say basic knowledge, it's obviously quite a high level of maths, but this maths is, and where it just randomly appears. Like I remember doing avionics last year, and one of the online lecturers was like, so you'll be able to see here that we'll use Fourier transforms to go forward in this question. And I was like, oh my god, like, I've not touched them in a very long time, and I'm just having to pull them out of the blue. So I would like panic and, as I say, get embarrassed, because I used to think, oh my gosh, like maybe this isn't for me if I'm just meant to be memorizing all of this maths and it's not just coming straight back to me. But I mean, I'm nearly in fourth year now, like I've got through it, and that's just through persistence. Like if I do get that shock, I think, well, you know, that's on you. You know, you need to go and learn that. Doesn't matter that I didn't know it right then. You know, maybe I probably should have known it. You know, it should have been fresher in my mind. But especially around the circumstances with the pandemic and exams changing, you've got to give yourself a little bit of leeway as well. It's a very complex degree.
I mean, Jess, you sound incredibly focused,
Oh,
and someone who really, you know, if you need to teach yourself something, it sounds like you just go ahead and do it. Like there's no holding back on always helping yourself to progress. And I'm going to ask you a question now, which you're very welcome to say, sorry, don't want to go there. But what about things like relationships and boys, and I don't know which way you're inclined, but like, what about all the stuff that isn't to do with contributing to your career or your, you know, career in modeling, career in engineering, your personal development? Like, what about all that stuff that can actually be distracting? And I ask that because you're in a very male dominated industry. So for someone who's heterosexual, that can be kind of like really, it can be a massive distraction.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know which way you're inclined, but like, talk to me about that side of things.
Yeah, so I think maybe it possibly would have been different had I gone to university when everybody else did and everybody in my class was the same age. But being 5 or 6 years older than all of the guys, as I was saying, like I can't see any of them in more than a friendship aspect, because we're in different stages of our lives, even though, even though education-wise we're in the same boat. Like I am a few years ahead in terms of like financially and stuff like that. Like I'm like so lucky to be able to afford things while I'm at university and have a job, which means I don't actually need to work that many days and I can still earn a very good income from it. Like that is an absolute blessing. I understand people don't get that. So I feel like, I can understand why girls might feel how you've just described. And I feel like I probably would have done in my first, if I'd have gone to university when I was 18. But in my experience, because I am a little bit older than the guys, I don't find them distracting or anything. I think that in terms of personal development for me, the things which get in the way are I don't know if it's classed as extracurricular stuff, but I like stuff like being in the Miss England competition last year, which is a hell of a lot of work. So in terms of like a dating life and stuff like that, that is one thing that gets compromised. I always say to people, summer is the dating season, because I don't have a degree. Like I feel like if I was to fit that in as well, it might get compromised, especially because I'm doing the modelling career alongside the Miss England stuff. I'm trying to make content to advertise things to girls. I go into schools and do STEM talks as well. Obviously that's not week in, week out. That's as and when a school wants me and when I can fit it in. But there's obviously PowerPoints I need to make for that. And I'm always in contact with different companies about, like there's a networking event called the Girls Network, which is taking place sometime in July. And basically you are a mentor to girls, and they got in contact and were like, you know, we think you would be great. And I was like, I would love to do that, you know. And I always take on things like that and then wonder why I'm stressed. But I think it's because that's where my passion is sourced. I can't say no to it. I'm like, we'll find a way. If I have to compromise on something, I'm not condoning compromising on sleep, but that's what tends to go. And also, yeah, like the dating life and stuff like that is absolutely non-existent until like the summer season comes around. So
I love the fact that you're just so focused on doing you, which is like something that I think, I don't want to stereotype, but there have been generations where women are expected to put themselves aside.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you don't have that. You're like, no, this is what I want to do for me, and I'm going to do it. And it's just so incredibly empowered to hear.
It stems from my mum and dad always used to say I could be whatever I wanted to be. And they said the same to my sister. And obviously we both went off into careers originally which weren't academic. Georgia went to university for a year doing musical theatre, then dropped out because she realised that wasn't going to lead her to the stage. She needed to go to a London drama school. So yeah, I think my mum and dad have always said, you know, you can be whatever you want to be. And through my own experience as well, going through modelling, it became very apparent when suddenly I'm 15 and I'm getting turned down from all sorts of different agencies and castings, which is normal. That, you know, in life, I always say, like, I don't expect anybody to work for me. You know, if you want something, go out and get it yourself, because you can trust yourself 100%. You know, obviously people say, oh, you know, they trust their family and this and that, and I'm right with them, but the one person in this world who you can trust more than anybody else is yourself. Like, why wait for somebody else to go out and get an opportunity for you? You know, somebody else isn't going to do things your way. Somebody else isn't going to make the decisions the way you want them to be made. And I just thought, I don't want to be in a position where I'm relying on somebody else to achieve a certain lifestyle for me. So if I want to do something, I will make it work. I will go out and do it. And when it comes to like what progressing and stuff, I am not an excuse maker. I will just roll my sleeves up and get on with it. Like, for instance, being on national TV this week, obviously that got in the way of my exam revision. And in the back of my head, while I'm sat there on the couch with Dermot and Alison, I was thinking, you have got so much aerodynamics to do. Why are you doing this? But at the same time, I'm like, now is the time and the place. Like, I'm not going to get this offer again. If this is happening now, we take it now and we work everything else like along the way, you know, like life deals you with different cards, you know what I mean? So can't expect anybody to work for you, especially it's hard.
I just absolutely love that. That was a total mic drop moment. I just want to end, because we have a little bit of time left only, unfortunately. I feel like I could talk to you for hours. And I'd love to talk to you for hours, to be honest, because I just want to I want to learn so much from you, because in listening to you, it's clear that your strength of character, your confidence, but it's humble confidence. It's not like I know it all. It's like, you know what, I'm really willing to learn, because I think that's going to help me. And so I'm reaching out for help, which I think is a very, very important trait to have, because asking for help, particularly if you're bright, is not the easiest thing. So that humility, the confidence, all of that is just, it's so empowering. And it's so inspiring to listen to. But I want to ask a question, and I don't want it to be a downer.
Okay.
But some people may be watching you and listening to you thinking, well, if I had brains and beauty, my life would be sorted too, you know, that kind of thing. What would you say to that kind of perspective of you?
I think I can understand why people might have that perspective, but I think before people form opinions on me, they should get to know my background, because I wasn't a looker when I started school, and I put all my efforts into my grades, because that was something that wasn't determined by my physical appearance and my attributes. You know, like, no, that examiner doesn't know the way that you look, and I just thought, this is something that I can do for me, and I'm always going to have my grades, which is why I could have not done my A-levels, because I was already signed with a modelling agency, but I thought, no, I need to have that option and that key in the door to get into university in the future, just in case. I think you need to like consider options and kind of put yourself in a safe place, like have a backup, so to say. So yeah, I can understand why people might have the assumption about me, like, oh, of course your life will be sorted and stuff like that. But first and foremost, academically, as I said before, I have always been academic. I understand that, but I've also worked very hard, right the way through back doing my GCSEs. I was that kid who was studying for like weeks or months in prep, hours and hours every day, like 10 hours on the dining room table, not seeing friends or anything like that, because that's the time and the place to do it, and, I've made mistakes along the way. When I was doing my A-levels, I thought, oh, I'll revise 6 months in advance. Don't do that. Waste of time. There's time and place to do it. And, short-term sacrifice, long-term gain. So I feel like, yeah, before people make assumptions, first and foremost, they should know that when I started high school, I mean, it's not hard to find pictures. You can just Google me. It's been in all the papers this past week. I definitely wasn't a looker. And then also, I haven't got to this position by not working hard. I find engineering hard. I really struggle with it. Like, I'm not pretending I'm an expert by any means. I always say to people, like, you've got to run before you can walk. Nobody's an expert at anything straight away. And I mean, I think there was a time when I was a little toddler, walking was the hardest thing in the world for me. Right now, I'm an expert at it. But back then it was so hard because I was new to it. So if that theory now applies to multivariable calculus, so be it. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm ever going to be an expert at that because I don't love it enough to put all my effort into it. It's a wide scope of things that could go on in this degree. But yeah, sorry, I'm a chatterbox.
Oh, I find you so incredibly inspiring. I wish I had that kind of attitude at the time, because when I was getting that kind of negativity, I was the person that would go into the bathroom and cry, but not have that moment of like, you can do this, I think it really wore me down. So actually, selfishly, I'm going to ask you a question because I would love to get your inspiration from it. So you've got the brains and beauty, and that's amazing because, I know what it takes to do engineering degrees, and it is a lot of hard work, and I busted my backside to get my qualifications. For me, working hard was everything. And I really resonate in the way you describe it, because looking back, it was really hard work, but it's only taken you saying that for me to acknowledge how hard I worked. I never actually really acknowledged it. I just thought that's something that everyone should do. But actually, it is a really gallant effort that you're putting in, that I've put in to get those qualifications. So I want to get your take on any comments that you may get where people might think, okay, you've got the qualifications, you're super smart, but actually you're going into an industry that's kind of easy, standing in front of the camera because you're beautiful and earning a living from that. To some people might seem really easy. And let's just say that side of your career takes over more than the engineering. People may start to say that you've taken the easy route in life.
Yeah.
And I may not include this in the podcast, but what would be your response to that?
I would say if I was taking the easy route in life, I definitely wouldn't have picked aerospace engineering. Just because that might be the path I decide to go down after university, that's nothing to do with anybody else. That doesn't validate, my interest in the subject. I mean, people form assumptions about anything. As I was saying before, people think, oh, aerospace engineering, that means she's going to go work with planes. And then so if I go and work with cars, does that mean I'm not a good aerospace engineer? Not really, because I'm applying the aerodynamics to Formula One cars. You know what I mean? Like, people aren't as in the know about the industry if they've not been in it themselves, and they don't realize how hard it is. And for anybody that has that assumption about even, oh God, that's such a waste having an engineering degree, but then going into TV, I I completely disagree. I think it would be absolutely amazing to have a female in that position, because even though there's always a talk about STEM subjects, and I'm very passionate about showcasing them to girls, there are a lot of girls in science, and we need more girls. We always need more girls, but in engineering, there really isn't that many. And I think being in a position of, I don't know whether it's called power, but being in a position where a lot of people are looking at you and you're demonstrating how amazing this subject is, it's not coming from somebody that's not been through it. And I think that's what's really important. Like, anybody can stand on the TV and preach about something that's on an auto cue, but for you to actually be able to relate with people and translate your experiences and show that you've got through to the other side, because I know, myself included, and that girl I was talking about before, you can get into engineering and completely doubt yourself, because obviously it's very intense. So I think it's really important to see people on the other side. And that's why one of my first agendas when I started university was, right, I need to make friends with older students who've been there and done that, and who can give me advice, who can guide me, and who can also make me feel calm when I'm getting stressed over not knowing a subject. It's like so common when somebody's like, oh, I was like that and you'll be fine. And you're like, oh, really? Because other people aren't panicking. And they're like, yeah, like I literally recently, I messaged one of the older students and said, hey, have you got any past papers from like different years that I might not have access to? Said, or any past questions, because obviously you've been through it. And I remember him saying, oh, it took me and this other girl, like, we spent a whole week just trying to figure out one aerodynamics past paper, because I was panicking because I'd spent a whole day on one question. And I was like, oh my God, this isn't good. This isn't good. It shouldn't take me this long. And having that comfort blanket, knowing that it's not just me, and finding people who are going to communicate their struggles is so important. So yeah, sorry, went off on a tangent, but I think it's, people are going to form the assumption about me potentially wasting my degree by not going into industry. I think that is a load of rubbish, really, because I think having the degree makes me so relatable and makes me, just, I can narrate my experiences to people, and I can advertise it to girls. We need more girls in this industry. I'm technically still working in the industry. I'd be educating people.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Jess, it's been an absolute pleasure being able to hear from you. And I emphasize the word hear because, you're absolutely gorgeous. There's been a lot of hype about the Miss England stuff, the modelling, and I'm sure your career is going to go from strength to strength, and we'll be seeing a lot more of you. But it's, for me, and especially on this conversation that will go on Esteemed and Innervation, it's really important to hear about the person inside this beautiful shell that you've got. And I'm even more inspired to hear about how hard you've worked, how much you want to develop your inner self and give to others through your work. And you really are like a new age woman, because you just don't have any of the kind of like obstacles, the mental obstacles that hold people back. Like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this, maybe I shouldn't do that. People might think this, but you're just like, no, this is me. This is the time. I'm going to take advantage of it and I'm going to use it. And that kind of strength and confidence and resilience and empowered womanness about you is utterly inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing yourself with us. Do you have any sort of last few sort of things you want to say to, I'm sure, a very captivated audience today?
I think I would just carry on from what I was saying before. Like, in engineering, don't expect to be an expert straight away. It's normal to struggle, and you are not any less worthy by voicing those struggles. If anything, that's probably going to help you. Don't be embarrassed if you don't understand something. And even if somebody's going out their way to make you feel embarrassed, or even if, it doesn't even have to be in a student level, it could be, between like a lecturer and a student or whatever. If somebody's going out their way and you think they're trying to make you feel embarrassed and not worthy, then just believe in yourself, because at the end of the day, you're the one that's got to do the work either way. They're not going to do it for you. So you can either, you know, take that on board and go, right, I'm struggling, let's learn how to do it, even if it takes you 10 hours. Or you can kind of panic and kind of put it in a box, not learn it, and then it appear on an exam, and you'll then be like, oh, I wish I'd have done that. You know, it's just about time, really.
Well, I can't wait to see what happens with your career next. Good luck with everything you've got going on. So many things. I can't wait to see more of you. And yeah, good luck with those exams. Man, it takes me back. It wasn't easy.
Aerostructures, aerodynamics, space flight and rotorcraft coming up a week tomorrow.
I'll be thinking of you.
Thanks, I will need it.
Thanks for listening, and please do subscribe to this podcast and maybe even rate and review it if you can. The more ratings and reviews, then the more interest from those trusty algorithms, which could help to increase the reach of this show. And you can watch the video recording of this conversation on YouTube on my new series called Esteemed. It's all about self-discovery, self-evolution, and inclusivity on innovation. Let's all strive to be in the best versions of ourselves and celebrate others being themselves too. As always, be kind and loving, and I wish you all a great week.